Hi, good afternoon. My name is Drew Kartes. I am the VP of Business Development for Blend 360 on the West Coast.
And I'm Dave Rudary, Senior Director of Business Development for the Mountain Region based in Denver, Colorado.
We last year we're just doing a follow-up to an article we wrote last year on how to meet staffing needs, deciding between contract to hire, and direct permanent placements. We're going to talk a little bit about what still stayed the same a year later, still being in this employee-driven market and COVID era, as well as what's changed. And so we'll go through and just kind of outline some of the things to take in consideration when you're going into Q3, when you're planning your budgets, and some things to watch out for. So with that, Dave, I'll turn it over to you to kind of jump into kind of the lay the scene of last year.
Yeah, so over the last year, obviously a lot has changed over the last couple of years. So I think the big thing is to really get an understanding of where the economy was then, about a year ago in July of 2021 versus where it is now, July of 2022. So just some key statistics that we kind of pay attention to on like the recruiting side is one, obviously unemployment. Unemployment in July of 2021 was 5.4%. As we were kind of coming out of COVID, people were still looking for opportunities. In July of 2022, we're at 3.5%. And one of the big things that also came out was a lot of people like leaving their jobs. And so July of 2021, there was about 927,000 people that month that left their jobs. And this year of July, it's 842,000 left their jobs. So people are still obviously losing, but last year people were leaving at a lot higher rate. And then the other piece that has actually increased were two pieces were part-time jobs, and then as well as average hourly rates for hourly employees. That was just a way to kind of gauge where the salaries and compensation has grown. So for part-time people, that there was about 20 million people last year in 2021, and then this year there's about 21 million people that are working part-time, kind of showing the gig economy. And then the hourly rates have increased from about, on average for the US economy, was about $30 an hour. And this year was $32 an hour. So as you can kind of see, a lot has changed over the year, from anything from unemployment to increase in pay. And we got this all from the Better Business Bureau on labor statistics.
Awesome. So what's still valid from last year, from 2021? There's a couple of things for the pros for the contract to hire. It's number one is in this employee driven market, and it's so vital to get these candidates as quickly as possible, especially if they are strong candidates. Is this just a faster interview process? Number two for you, it really helps eliminate the risk for higher salaries, and it allows you to test the candidates out. So it's almost a try before you buy methodology. I know a lot of people have budgets, but they're really concerned about getting the right people in place. If you're on the fence with these people, try looking at a contract to hire. Test them out for six months, and if they check all the boxes, then it's so easy for you to bring them over. If they don't, you can always cut ties early.
Yeah, and I think the other important part on that, Drew, is that it also allows like the employee to really kind of test out the company as well, because you want to make sure it's good on both sides, and it's a long-term fit. So if you can help mitigate risk by not having to pay for any of the taxes like FICA, FUTA, SUTA, or unemployment taxes, by going contract to hire, it really kind of alleviates that risk, and it allows companies and employees to both try make sure that it's a good fit for the long term.
Absolutely, it gives the employee, like you said, a chance to see behind the curtain, and it gives the company a chance. So it's a win-win on both sides. On top of that, it doesn't dig into your headcount approval. So if you have certain numbers budgeted for the year, these can kind of be on the standoff that can help you kind of get your projects done, test people out, and see if you want to bring them on in the next year, following and coming in the next year.
Yeah,
Some of the cons. Sorry, go ahead, Dave.
Yeah, I was just gonna say I've also noticed a lot of my clients have utilized like their project budgets for like SOW, so that way it's not coming out like what you were saying, that headcount approval, but it's coming out of a different budget that doesn't account for it. But you're allowed to bring that person on, whether it's later this year or even next year when you do have that headcount approval.
Absolutely. And then just really a few of the cons with a contract to hire scenario is, in this employee driven market that we're in right now, most people are looking for direct hire placements. And so they won't be considered an employee. And that can be it can be a very big negative as they're going through the interview process, especially if they have multiple opportunities out there. And then it's not something you really want to focus on if this is more of a managerial position. If they're managing people, it just doesn't seem like the right opportunity to bring them on more of a contract to hire or a contractor. And then with the pros with direct placement is the exact opposite. We are an employee driven market. People are looking for direct hire opportunities, looking for a good cultural fit. They have a lot of different opportunities. And so most people are leaning more towards a direct hire over a contract to hire. Some people are very open to contract to hires, but for the most part, in this market that we're in right now, most people are looking for direct employment. The cons for direct hires, especially from the company side, is you're losing candidates. It is a much longer process. And unless that is a streamlined process inside of your organization, and you're moving these people through and communicating really well, people are usually going to take the first opportunities that they've got. So you really need to be on board. We talk to companies all the time. And when you ask what time to fill, they say yesterday, and then they take a month and a half to fill that role. These candidates have 4 or 5 different offers, so you need to move that process forward quickly, or a lot of these people that could potentially be really good fits for your organization, really good cultural fits, are going to fall off and take something else. And then the onboarding process is you want to make sure that you're streamlining the onboard process as quickly as possible as well, making it as easy for those candidates to get their information, get through the process, and get up to date and started as quickly as possible working on those roles.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's a really good point, Drew. Everybody wants to be valued, especially when they're going through an interview process. And a lot of people think that the full-time employee is such a big part. And, that's actually kind of leads into what has changed. And I think, on the direct placement side, we originally had in our article that there would be actually less back office work just because you hire somebody on full time, you don't have a lot of work to do, and then you don't have to approve time cards. You don't have to do check-ins with the recruiting team if that's the process that you guys go through. But now what we're seeing is that it's actually increasing some back office paperwork just because of the economy and how competitive it is. So it's a little bit different in regards to that. There's just a lot of multiple offers. You have to move a lot faster. So it's increasing the number of offers having to be pushed out because there's a lot more offers decline. So it's actually increasing the overall paperwork. And then you also have to, we've seen a lot of our clients tend to ask for more budget to offer higher salaries, which also is increasing the overall paperwork and the time to get approvals to go through. The other side is, people preferring the direct placement. We're actually seeing a little bit of a mix. I think the majority is still enjoying and prefers the direct placement side. But we are seeing a little bit of a shift now, looking for more flexibility, especially with companies that are, work from home is a huge piece. And if people are required to go in the office 5 days a week, isn't quite as enticing. A lot of people are liking the hybrid. So candidates do like to try out on that contract to hire model versus that direct placement in certain instances. But at the end of the day, a lot of people are still requiring and wanting the direct placement side. The one other side, what we are seeing is critical roles. We originally put that as a con for the contract to hire side of things, but we're actually seeing that even more as a pro now. The reason that is sometimes it might just be solely project-based work where it might not even be a contract to hire. It might be more on like the consulting side where people are coming in, working on a project, getting things up and running, and then handing it off. And so we're seeing a lot of that for even some of like the more critical roles, that people that are subject matter experts coming in, hitting the ground running, solving problems, and then moving on to their next project. So there isn't, I would say, groundbreaking or earth-shattering changes, but there definitely are, which maybe can open up your eyes into different ways of looking at when you're hiring on a direct hire basis, or maybe even considering contract to hire.
Absolutely. So some trends and hiring plans for the next year, just certain things to take in consideration. I know a lot of organizations are getting together in Q3. It's a very vital time to put your budgets together for the new year and do your planning on your workforce. You really want to look at and potentially look at a more of a gig workforce. The talent needs are still high, but not as much comp. And Dave, I know you wrote that out. Can you put a little bit more elaboration on what that means?
Yeah, for when it coming to like the gig workforces, now people instead of just hiring on full time, what I've noticed with a lot of my clients, and would love to get your opinion too, Drew. Your opinion, Drew, is actually a lot of people are looking to look for more project-based work. Find that subject matter expert. Only hire them for maybe a few months or a year. That's maybe all that they need them for more project-based side of things, especially with the economic uncertainty. People are just a little bit more cautious with their budget. So we're seeing that a little bit more. Is that kind of what you're seeing too, Drew?
Absolutely. And the smart companies are really planning that out. Do I need a
Mm.
full-time employee or do I need this person for 9 to 12 months? And so when you're really thinking and doing backward engineering, once that project's done, where's your need for that individual? Do you need that person on your team? And with this pandemic, we're also seeing a lot more of the employees that are very open to 9, 12 month stints. They want consistency and the opportunities, but they're very open to the discussion of contract work much more than it was before.
Absolutely.
Yep. And the same thing is that we hear in a lot right now is the economic uncertainty, headcount approvals. Things have slowed down immensely right now. People are being a little bit more tenacious than they are, a little bit more cautious than they were previously. But that could change overnight. We're still waiting, kind of see that out. But these roles and these projects don't stop because of the economy. So there is another pro there for a contract to hire, as it allows companies to skip the headcount this year and potentially add them next year when they're a little bit more comfortable. Maybe the economy stabilized a little bit more and they can bring those people on full time.
Yeah,
Um,
and Drew, I think the reason why I think that this is so important, and even if it's just for like consultants in general, is because when you created this budget, maybe a year ago now that we're in Q3, is that the economy was booming, it was still going great, but obviously some things change, and so budgets have changed, and headcount approvals are being edited kind of throughout the year. So we have seen more people at least looking at both sides. So even if you are interviewing not just full-time employees, but also interviewing consultants or consult to hire candidates as well. Just that way you have a variety for when the time comes, depending on what your approval process looks like.
yep. And then just to touch on top of that, we talked briefly about waterfall hiring plans as you're going through your Q3. Just a great example is maybe you have to add 10 salespeople next year. So you need to think about the other externalities that go along with it too. It could be who's going to be managing those teams. Do you have a business development team that's going to be helping support that? Is there a marketing group that's going to be helping to support those sales goals and objectives as well? Can some of those opportunities be a contract or a contract to hire, or do you need those people that are going to help support those roles full time next year? So those are just little things to take in consideration as you're going through your budgeting and planning for the new year.
100%.
And then
I think
just
that those are
sorry,
some
go
really
ahead.
good I think those are some really good points, Drew. I think I think that the way to kind of really kind of tie this up is just kind of keeping your options open. The economy and the workforce is constantly changing and evolving. So making sure you're looking at different options, whether it's due to supply and demand, the timelines that you're working with your company, or even with just the candidate, trying to match somebody maybe that you really like. It's still an employee-driven market here at this point. So being adaptable and the interview processes are extremely important because that's what's attracting people, and it's become a cornerstone of just the hiring cycle, and also including your DE&I, as well as expecting employers to be flexible for when it comes to the in office, whether it's hybrid, fully remote, just providing some flexibility based off of people's individual situation. So I think this is just a couple of things to consider when you are looking to hire, especially as we are going into planning season for 2023. But this has been I thought a really great, Drew. I wasn't sure if you had anything else to add.
No, I think the other thing is we'll add a link to the article that we wrote last
Yep.
year. And if you have any hiring needs or need any help, please feel free to reach out to Dave, myself, or anybody on the Blend 360 team. We'd be happy to help support you or go into more detail with what we talked about today.
Great. Thanks.
Great. Thank you.